Hi, I'm Brian of WVGamers. Today we're going to be looking at a strategic balancing game called Crash Factor. In Crash Factor, you and the other players are going to be taking turns placing your little spaceships onto a solar system board. The problem is, the solar system is easily taken out of balance. So what you'll need to do is strategically plan where your ships are going to be placed. So this is the solar system. And if we just put something on it, everything starts going out of balance. So you're going to have to strategically decide where you're going to place your ships to prevent the entire solar system from crashing, causing you some penalties. So, on the board, we're going to look at the different areas. You'll see there's a thick white ring here. That is the Milky Way. There is a benefit to placing your ships onto that location. Around each of these little cornered sections here is a light blue colored area. That's the orbit of the planet. And each of the planets are also represented by cards. These are deeds. You'll need to land in these orbits to collect these. We'll talk about how that happens as we move forward. Also, there's thin rings as well that have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, all represented by shapes based on the number of lines shown on those shapes. So, what you're going to be doing in this game, you can play this strategically or completely just as a dexterity game where you just kind of feel things out, placing ships down, keeping everything kind of in balance so then you're setting the other players up to potentially cause a crash. Or you can do a little bit of math. So there is a formula in the game called the crash factor value. And that's basically a strategic way of looking at the balance of the solar system and when things are going to crash. Each of the ships have a value of 1 to 6. On the board, you're going to have a value of 1 to 4. Now, if you placed a 1 on the ring, in the center of the ring of the 1, you have a crash value of 1. You're just multiplying the numbers together. But if you push that out to 2, it's 2. Out to 3, it's 3, and so on. But let's say you have a 2. If you put the 2 on the 1, it's a crash value of 2, then 4, 6, and 8. What do all these numbers mean? Well, they've figured out that the balance is offset, causing a crash whenever you exceed a crash value of 10. So if I would put, let's say, a 4 on a 3 section, what's going to happen is this board is going to tip and everything is going to start sliding off. Let's put it on a 2 just to kind of present, kind of show you how that's going to look. So 4 on a 2, so the crash value is 8. So I'm actually going to use this little tool to place this ship down. This is an optional component. You do not need to use this, but it can help you kind of fill things out. So we're going to put it right there. And so the crash value is currently at 8. Now I'm going to take this back off. And I'm going to place that on the 3, which will cause a crash. But you'll kind of see how it works. So I've put it on the 3, trying to go down as gently as possible. The good thing with this tool, until it lets go of the spaceship, you're still making a valid move, but you'll see I've caused a crash. So you're going to either just fill it out if you kind of like more dexterity games, or you could sit there and strategically figure out where you want to put things. Now, let me put this back on. What's interesting is there's like a little piece of like sandpaper here and a little rubber ball. This is a fulcrum, or fulcrum. And it's basically getting rid of, I guess, the friction on there to allow things to hold a little better. Now, whenever you place this on here, you want to place it as balanced as you want, but you don't have to. So let's look at something else real quick, and then we'll start talking about how the game's actually played. Let's say I have a 2, and I'm going to put it on this 3 over here. The crash value is currently around 6 to this side. Now, if I was to take a 4 and put it on the 3 over here, giving it a crash value of 12 this way, you'll be surprised when it shouldn't crash as long as my dexterity holds up. As long as my dexterity holds up. There we go. So even though I've exceeded the crash value when things are at a balance, when I placed the piece down, it wasn't at balance. So you're going to be looking and getting a good feel for how the solar system's already balanced for when you're placing your pieces. That's how you're going to get rid of some of your higher value pieces, kind of waiting for it to be in the perfect imbalanced shape or position, and then placing your heavier pieces strategically wherever you can to prevent the crash. You got to take these pieces back off. So that will give you basically an idea of the strategy and kind of the math in the game. So how's the game actually played? So there are 2 win conditions in the game. You can either collect all of these deeds for the planets, or you can get rid of all of your ships and space junk. And we'll talk about how you get space junk throughout the explanation. So, what's going to happen at the beginning of the game? Players are going to collect a set of these mission cards and all of the spaceships of a certain color. And like I said, they're valued from 1 to 6. These are valued 2 to 7. And we'll explain how these work together. Okay, let's actually switch over to this. Okay. So on your turn, we'll skip over how the game starts. Just everything is at balance. All the players have their stuff. You can look at our written review for all the details of how you start the game and everything. I want to get into the meat of the game. So, on your turn, you can either take on a mission, or you can do one of the play options. When you take on a mission, you're going to shuffle all these cards. We'll say you haven't drawn any yet. You're going to shuffle the cards, and you're going to pull one card from the top. It's going to show you basically a symbol that's representing a number. This is a 7 because it's got 7 lines in it. That means I must place 7 points of ships out here. Now, I don't have to do that in just one ship. I can place down multiple ships to cause that, to fulfill that mission value. So, I may go, well, let's go with a 2 over here. And then let's go with a 5 closer to the middle just to kind of keep things from crashing. So we'll go like right here. So I have technically fulfilled my 7 mission. Now, in addition to just placing it somewhere on the board, because you're not allowed to move other people's pieces, you can dock on other people's pieces. So we'll grab one of these reds as an example. Let's grab a 1. So I can technically dock onto another ship. And what will happen is I'll add the value of the ship I'm placing with the value of the ship that I'm docking on top of. So if I place this on top of the 2, my value will actually be 3. So let's very carefully put that on there. And you may be wondering, how are you able to dock it like that? Well, on here, if you can see, there are a little hole in the middle that allows these things to fit on top of those little nubs that are on top. And you can stack these as high as you want legally. The only thing is the value that you're docking on is only based on the topmost ship. So once you play your ship, your card will sit in front of you, and based on the view that you can see the edge of the box. The edge of the box will actually have each of these different card symbols. You'll just place your card there in front of it, so then you know which cards are left in your deck. Once you've played all of your cards, you'll shuffle your cards and you'll have a fresh deck again. Now, the last ship that you play on a turn will be called the Terminator. The Terminator gets a couple perks depending on where you place it. If you place it somewhere on the Milky Way ring, you'll get one of the space devices. You'll get the antimatter and the anti-gravity pieces. You can pick whichever one of these you want. There'll be a number of these equal to the number of players playing in the game. So there'll be, in a 2-player game, 2 of these and 2 of these. So if I choose to take this one, on a future turn, whenever I decide to dock on top of another ship, it makes the ship that I'm docking on top of a 0. If I use this piece, this is basically a value of 2, and it can be placed anywhere on your turn. So if you need to kind of balance things out before you do your big power play, you can use one of these to kind of give yourself a little balance, a little breathing room, so then you could perform maybe landing on one of the planets or something like that. And so these are very valuable. Now, these cannot be docked, and there's no spot on the bottom of them. They can literally only be placed in an open spot. So that's what you'll get if you go into the ring. Now, if you go into the little blue orbity section above a planet, if the planet is currently unowned, no one has these little deed cards, then you'll claim that deed card as your own. If it's owned, you just simply don't get it. You'll be able to steal planets when we talk about that here momentarily. Now, if you land onto a planet, the fully colored section, and not touching any of the blue orbit, and if you own the planet, you'll get a bonus turn immediately, but it must be entirely on the colored spot. Now, also, if you happen to manage to overhang anywhere around the board, so you're kind of just a little bit over and kind of dipping out of the game board, you can actually get rid of one of your space junks if you have acquired one of those. Now, if you dock on another player while on the ring area, you can actually steal one of their devices. And if you dock on another player while on their planet, or if you dock on a player on another planet, you can steal the deed from the owner of that planet. And then you also either get a bonus turn, or you can get rid of one of your space junks. And that's basically the different perks of placing on the different locations. Now, if you cause a crash factor, where basically stuff starts falling off, you're penalized with one of these. And whatever you were trying to do that turn is voided. You have to take your piece back, basically. And these basically prevent you from being able to win the game if you have any of these. Unless you win by collecting all the planet cards. But basically, to win in the second option of getting rid of all your ships, you'd also have to get rid of all of these as well. Okay. So that is kind of the summary of taking on a mission. Now, the 3 play options that you'll have is you can simply retreat if you don't want to draw one of your cards. Now, these play options, none of these you're required to draw a card, so you'll just kind of leave those away for the time being. So retreating, you'll simply choose not to take on a mission, and you'll reclaim one of your ships either from the board or from the bin down here. So whenever you cause a crash, all of the player ships stay in the box itself. So you'll simply take one from either place. The other one is reconfiguring your fleet. Let's say you have a 7 and there's just no way you're going to be able to get rid of it. You could trade in the 7 for multiple ships that add up to 7 that happens to be in the crash tray. So I could trade out the 7. Actually, I got a 6. I'm sorry. A 6. You can trade out the 6 for 6 value of other ships. So I could take 3 2s, or 2 3s, or 1 4 and 2 1s. Whatever combination. Problem is, you want to take as few ships as possible, because the more ships you take, the longer it's going to take you to get rid of all of your ships. And then the final thing is you can dump one of your space junks. You basically have to spend your entire turn just placing one of your space junks somewhere on the board. So those are your 3 play options. And essentially, you're going to be taking turns performing missions, doing one of the play options, until either one player has collected all of the deeds for the planets, causing the game to end immediately, and that player is the winner, or until one player has gotten rid of all their ships and their space junk. Once you get rid of all of those, you've triggered the end game, and other players are going to get to take turns as long as everyone's had an equal number of turns. So if you were the first player, all the other players are going to get one additional. Basically, they're going to get the finish out the round, so they'll all get a turn. But if it's the last person who has finished taking out all their ships and their junk, the game will end immediately at that point. And that is essentially the game of Crash Factor. This is a self-published game, so some of the components may not look like your standard published titles where they have nice polished pieces. These are all 3D printed pieces, but honestly, they're very nice little pieces. I've actually taken a few of these apart, or had one fall apart. So I took a few pictures of what these are made of in the inside. You can check out my written review on WVGamers.org if you want to see how these things are built. I really like this game because Amanda loves kind of balancing dexterity games. I love a little more strategy with those types of games. I enjoy playing them, no doubt, but I tend to like a little more kind of planning out things rather than just kind of filling things out. Because while I'm okay at dexterity games, it seems like I just get a string of bad luck. But if there's a little bit of strategy built in, maybe I'll make some better decisions. So we really like this game. This is a 2 to 3 player version of the game, but I've been told by the designer that he has a 4-player game, basically following the same rules, but obviously this planet board's going to be a little different. But that's going to be coming out later this year. He is currently looking for a publisher who might be interested in working with him to get this mass manufactured. But we'll hear more about that if you follow their Facebook page, and if you are following us, if we hear anything, we'll also be sure to tell you all about it as well. And that is essentially Crash Factor. I've probably missed a few details about like what happens when you run out of these. You'll take them shuffle. Some of those little details I want to get into the meat of, but you can check out our written review for all the details where I go through all of the rules and give you a good thorough explanation of everything. So hopefully if you like this, follow the creator, follow us if you want to see more about this, and thanks for watching. I'm Brian with WVGamers. Have a good evening.